Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, you are welcome, and to my returning subscribers, thank you so much. In today's tutorial, we are going to be learning how to make this lingerie set. So if this is what interests you, please keep on watching. I'll be making use of this stretchy material. It's lycra material, so I have 2 years with me here, and this lycra material stretches both sides. So I'll be folding my fabric. I'll be cutting the front and the back together. So I'll go ahead now to fold my fabric into 4. So I'm done folding my fabric, and at this side I left at least 1 inch. You can do 1.5 inch because this fabric is very stretchy, so 1.5 inch is very okay, but I did 1 inch. So from this my starting line, I'll be coming down by 1 inch. We will be working on that later for the back piece. Remember that we are cutting the back and the front together on this particular folds. So I'll go ahead now to mark my 1 inch that I came down by. Now we'll be starting our proper measurement. So for the band of these pants, I'll be making use of 1.5 inches. So from that line that we drew, that 1 inch that we came down by, I will be placing my 1.5 and I will be marking my full length. Please don't let this 1 inch that we came down by to confuse you. If at all you are confused, just pretend that line, that 1 inch was not even there. Just the normal way we normally cut our trousers. So you are going to be placing that 1.5 inches for the band of these pants, and this line, this 1 inch, is going to be serving as the starting line. I just hope it's making sense right now. So this 1 inch that we came down by is going to be serving as our starting line. I placed my 1.5 inches on that starting line, and I am marking my hip measurements. So go ahead now and mark your hip measurements. So from that my hip measurements, I came down by 3 inches, which is going to be serving as my lap measurements. I'll go ahead now to extend my lines. Let me go over the lines again. I have my starting line, I have my hip line, I have my thigh or lap line, and I have my full length. On this my starting line, I'll be taking my waist measurements. My waist measurement is 7.5, but because this fabric is very stretchy, I'll be taking 6.5 inches. So I've gone ahead to mark my 6.5 inches. On my hip line, I'll be taking my hip measurements. My hip measurement divided by 4. So I'm going ahead now to mark what I have. And remember, whenever you're working with stretchy materials, be minusing 1 inch from the actual measurements. So from my hip measurements right now, I will be taking my crouch extension. To get your crouch, you're going to be dividing your hip by 4, and whatever you have, you're going to be dividing it again by 4. And that is the easiest way to get your crouch measurements. And on my thigh line, I will be bringing down what I have on this my crouch line. I will simply be bringing it down to the full length. So I'll go ahead now to connect my lines. And on this my waistline, I'm going to be connecting my line to meet with my hip measurements. Not my crouch measurement, is my hip measurement. So I will just go ahead now to connect my line to meet with my waist measurements, just like you see me doing. This is what my line is looking like, and as you can see, it is not a straight line, it is a bit slant. So I'll go ahead now to curve my crouch extension to meet with my line that I have already made. So right now I'm going to connect that my crouch line to the full length. Like, I'm going to extend my line from my crouch line. I'm going to extend it to meet with my full length. After connecting my lines, this is what I have. I'll go ahead now to cut it out. So when cutting this out, I'm going to be raising just the front piece. I will not be cutting the back with the front. I'll just be cutting only the front piece. So I'll go ahead now to raise it up and carefully cut it, just like you see me doing. After cutting it out, this is what I have. I'll go ahead now to cut out this 1 yard. You know that this one inch, you know that it is only for the back piece, so we don't need it for the front piece. So I'm going ahead now to cut off this 1 inch that we came down by earlier. So right now I'll go ahead now to extend the line on my crouch line, and I'll be coming out by 1 inch. You can do 1.5 inches, but I think this 1 inch is very okay because my fabric is very stretchy. So I'll go ahead now to mark my 1 inch. I'll go ahead now to extend the lines to meet with the front line.
Straight. Wonder.
We will now be working on this 1 inch that we left earlier. So from this my waistline, I will be coming up by that 1 inch that I mark. I'll just be marking my 1 inch. So I've gone ahead now to mark it out. I'll be marking it in a slanty way to meet with the front waistline. Just look at what I'm doing and you will understand it better. My line is not straight. I marked the 1 inch to meet with the waistline of my front piece. I don't think I said this earlier, but my reason for cutting this front and back piece together like you see me doing is I don't want to have any side seam, and that is why I'm cutting it like this. So I hope you now understand it better. Like, I don't want to have any side seam on this my pants, and yeah, I'll go ahead now to cut it out and I'll show you guys what I have. I am done cutting it, and this is what I have. As you can see, we are not going to be having any side seam on this pants, and that is why I cut it like that. So I am going ahead now to mark out my back piece just to indicate it. So I'll be going ahead to close it up by 1/2 inch. I'll be closing the crouch area, and I'll also close this part. For my top part, I have already folded my fabric into 4 because I'll be cutting both the front and the back together. So I'll go ahead now to mark out my full length, and the full length I'm using for this top is 23 inches. So after that, I'll go ahead now to mark my neckline. The width of my neckline is 3 inches, and the length of my back is going to be 1 inch, and the front is 3 inches. I'll be going ahead right now to connect my lines. So this is what I have after connecting my lines. The first line is going to be serving as the back neckline, and the second one will be serving as the front neckline. So from my starting line, I'll be marking my bust points, and I'll go ahead now to mark it just like you see me doing. After that, I'll go ahead now to mark my waistline. My waistline is 16 inches, so I'll go ahead now to mark my 16 inches, and the last line is our full length. After that, I'll go ahead now to mark out my shoulder measurements. Please don't forget to be minusing 1 inch whenever you are working with stretchy fabric. So I'm minusing 1 inch from my actual shoulder measurements. So I've gone ahead now to mark out my shoulder measurements, and from that my shoulder measurements, I am coming down by 1 inch for our shoulder slants. From that 1 inch that we came down by for the shoulder slants, I will be taking my armhole measurements. So I'm placing my tape from that 1 inch to my bust line, and whatever I have, I'm going to divide it by 2, and I'm going to mark my midpoints. So after marking out my midpoints, I'm going to be marking a line from that my shoulder line down to my bust point. I am supposed to be doing this before taking the midpoint, but it's still fine. So I'll go ahead now to connect my line to meet my bust line. After that, from that my midpoint, I will be coming in by 1/2 inch, and I will mark it so. So right now on this my bust line, I'll be taking my bust measurements, and remember we'll be minusing 1 inch on each of the measurements. So I've gone ahead right now to mark my bust measurements, and I'll be connecting these lines together to form my armhole. I'll be connecting my bust measurements, the 1/2 inch that we came in by, and our shoulder slope, and I have gone ahead as well to connect it. The next thing I'll be doing is to take my waist measurements. So I'll go ahead now to mark out my waist measurements. I'm going ahead right now to connect my lines. The bust line, I will connect it to meet my waistline and down to my full length. And for the measurements I use for my full length, I simply marked out what I have on my bust line. I also marked it at my full length, and that is just how I got my full length measurement. So I'll go ahead now to cut it out.
Underneath the violet sky, I wait. Your shadow moves like a tidal wave. Eyes like galaxies pulling me in. Is this the start or is it the end?
So after cutting it out, this is what I have. I have my front and my back piece. So right now I'll go ahead now to cut out my sleeve. So I'll go ahead now to pick my back piece to measure out what I have on this armhole area. So whatever I have on this armhole area, that is what I'll be using to cut my sleeve. So I'll go ahead now to measure it out. I have already folded my fabric into two. I am managing my fabric, so I'll be cutting it 1-1. I'll be placing my tape on this folded edge and I'll be marking out what I measured out on my armhole. And what I have is 9 inches. So I'll go ahead now to mark my 9 inches. As you can see, I did not place my tape on a straight line. It's in a slanty form. So I have gone ahead now to mark out my 9 inches. So from these 9 inches that I marked, I will be going in by 1.5 inches, and this is one of the easiest way for me to know the way I'm going to be curving out my armhole. So now for you to get these curvy parts, I'm going to be drawing my line to meet with the first line that I marked. And from that first line, I will also be curving it to meet with the second line. Just look at what I am doing and you will get it right. And I think this is one of the easiest way for you to get this sleeve curve, but you can do what works for you, but I think this is one of the easiest. I'll go ahead now to mark my sleeve length, and the sleeve length I'm using is 7 inches. So I'll go ahead now to mark it out. After that, I'll be cutting it out, and I'll be using this one that I cut out to cut the second sleeve. I've gone ahead to close the crouch area with 1/2 inch, and I also did the same on this other side. So when you open it up like this is what we are going to be having. We are not going to be having any side seam. As you can see, there is no side seam on this pants, and it is looking so lovely. So right now I'll go ahead now to close up the down part, and I'll be using 1 inch to close it up. You know that the back part is longer than the front part, so we are going to align it before sewing it. Just align it so that the two of them will be equal, then you will sew it down. After sewing it up, this is what we have. So right now I'll be working on the band, like the waist part. I'll be working on the waist part. So remember that on the waist part we minus 1.5 inches when we are cutting it. So the band that I'll be cutting is going to be 2 inches width, and I'll be using half to join it to my waist part. I have already cut out my band. The width is 4 inches, but when you fold it, you are going to be having 2 inches. The length of this my band is the round measurement of my waistband. I'll go ahead right now to close up my band, just like you see me doing. And I'll be running a stitch on this my opening parts. I will run a stitch to secure it down. After closing up the open parts, I'll go ahead now to fold it just like you see me doing. Just look at what I'm doing. I don't know how to explain this better, but just look at what I'm doing, and you're going to be folding it just like I am doing it right now. So this is how your band is supposed to be looking like. I'll go ahead now to bring the back of my pants, and I'll be placing the band, that place that I fold on my band, I'll be placing it on the line that I close up my crouch on my pants so that the lines will align. So I'll go ahead now to pin it round. Please, if you don't understand what I said or any of the things that I said earlier, please just let me know in the comment section and I will explain it better. So I am done fixing my band, and this is what I have. I'll be weaving the inside later. So right now we'll be working on the top part. So for the front part, I'll go ahead now to stitch down my shoulder part, and I'll be doing so with 1/2 inch. And when I'll be stitching this other part, I will leave at least 1/2 inch open. I will not be sewing half an inch, and we'll be working on that later. I am done closing up my shoulder part, and as we can see, I left at least half an inch open. So right now we are going to be joining our sleeves. The way I'll be joining my sleeve is this notched part that I marked earlier. I'm going to be placing it on the same place I have my shoulder line. So if you look closely, I am not placing it to be equal with the fabric. I am placing it half an inch away from the fabric. Like the notched part is at least half an inch outside of my fabric. So after that, I will now go ahead now to place the other ones to align with my fabric. Just look at the way I'm doing it, you will understand it better. I am placing the rest to match up with my fabric, but the starting line, I at least went out by half an inch before placing it. I hope you understand this. So after that, I will also be doing the same thing on the other parts, and I'll be securing it down with a stitch. After stitching it down, this is what I have. So please, at this point, if you have watched to this point, please go ahead now to subscribe to my channel. So right now, I will go ahead now to close up my sleeve, but before then, if you want to fold up your sleeve, you can just go ahead now to fold up your sleeve. But for this my own, I will not be sewing it down. But later I changed my mind, though I changed my mind later. I later fold the sleeve. So but I didn't intend to do it earlier, so I'll go ahead now to close up my sides, and I'll be placing this my armhole to align with the lines that I have there. So I'll make sure that the lines align. So I'll go ahead now to sew it down, and I'll also be closing my sleeve area. I'll be doing the same thing on the other side as well. So after closing it up, this is what I have. This is what our top is looking like. I'll go ahead now to work on the neckline. I have already gone ahead to cut out my neckband. So the width of my neckband is 1 inch and the length is as long as possible. So I'll be placing my band on one side of the opening. You remember that we left half an inch opening on this part, so I'll be placing my band on one side of the opening, and just the normal way we place our bias. So I'll go ahead now to pin it down, and I'll be doing it round my neckline. So when I get to this other side, I'm going to be trimming off the excess. After that, I will head over to my sewing machine and I will sew it round. After stitching it down, this is what I have. So I'll go ahead now to close up this opening. I'll close it with just half an inch. So this is what the top is looking like. I have gone ahead now to close it up on this side. So right now I'll be folding it just the normal way of folding our bias. So I'll go ahead now to fold it to close up this rough patch. I'll be closing it in a fold just like you see me doing. I went ahead to place it down so that you will see what I am doing very well. So this is the way I will be folding it, and after folding, I'll go ahead to run a stitch on this end part, and I'll be running it all around my neckline. And this is what the lingerie set is looking like. And as you can see, there is no side seam on this our pants. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, please don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment. And of course, I'll be seeing you again in my next video. Bye.